So a bonus video for you guys is we had this person class created back in the back in week 6, 5, whatever. And what we want to do is kind of hold on to this person so that we could load it in the next segment. And if you had multiple classes, we could also do this. It doesn't really matter what it is. You just have to create the rules for how you save it and how you store it. Don't overthink this. Now, what defines a person is these fields. And really, that's all you need to store, because these are the fields you need to come back to when you store the person, right? The methods are action that a person could do, not what it is. So what we need to store is these values. So we could see here, let me just go ahead and copy this. And let's go to our input text as an example. What we need here is we need to have a name. So let's go ahead. We need to have a name. There we go. We need to have a height that's a float. So let's say, I don't know, let's say 12.5. That could be a possibility. We need a weight, 200. It's a float. It could be also integer. It doesn't really matter. Integer is inside float. Then we need a hair color. Now this looks a bit more complex. Hair color requires the color and I don't remember what these are, but I'm guessing thickness and length, maybe. We could go check that out. So here, hair, we click on it. We got color, length, and thickness. Okay, what are the possible colors? So one thing we could do is either do hair first or do it at the end, but I like to go in a row. So here, hair, we need 3 more fields to give to it. So the color, the length, and the thickness. So first, I want to see what colors is possible. I'm just going to bring this here. Where was I? Actually, it's in the input. There we go. So what colors are possible? So we're at color part. If we wanted to, we could divide this into a different thing than colons. Maybe we could use some other dividers for these 3 values. So representing it's the new hair. So I could say, let's say as an example, this should be black. Oops. I'm trying to match the string here that we see. Then I need to give it some float. So rather than using colon here, I'm going to utilize a different divider, maybe a $sign as an example. It could be anything you want. Then we need to give it a floating thickness and maybe a floating length. Let me just make sure that's what we were talking about. Let me go here. So length and then thickness, yeah. Doesn't really matter. We're just going to put them. And then when we're done with the hair, we're going to separate it with a colon again to get out of that hair part and specify the skin color. So here I'm going to say brown. And again, last one, eye color. So you could see it became big to save all of these values. And if we had multiple classes, maybe at the beginning, the first thing I could specify is what class it is. So let's say person at something. And then maybe the next guy is not going to be person, it could be student. We could have also stored many files to divide each type of classes that we have, right? The only thing you need to remember is which class requires which other class. So if you have many classes and they're I forgot the word here. There is a lot of binding between each other. So they're utilizing each object as part of the other one. I forgot the word. That's great. Anyway, if you have one of those where a lot of your classes requires other classes. So as an example, a student has teacher. A teacher also has the student and other students. Which one comes first? How do you build it? And so forth, so on. You have to put a bit of more thought into it. So maybe in those cases where a teacher has students and students has a teacher, what you could do is that association could be done at the end. So create the objects manually, keep the reference, and then do the connection afterwards. It's again up to you how you build this system. You're the one creating it. You're the architect. You're the engineer. Anyway, let's go back to our input output. So our input output, we had all this stuff. We're going to ignore this for a second. We're reading the file. Here we're writing to it. We don't want to write to it because we already done that. So you know what? Let's go ahead and extract this method. Write to file. Okay. So here we're writing, here we're reading. What we want to do now is build our person object by the reading. So this read doesn't work for us. We're just going to go erase them, but we're going to keep them as reference so we could come back to it. So again, what we need to do is create a scanner with that file and scan through it. So maybe I'll do copy paste here. So I read that scanner for that file. Then this time it's important for us to understand what we're looking for. We want to go, in this case, we want to go line by line again. Okay, so I'm not going to change the delimiter of the scanner. We're going line by line. Does it have a new line? Yes. That line, I got it. This line equals this value, right? With this value, the first part is the object type I need. So I get the line. I'm going to split it. The first time I'm splitting it, let's say, this is not the best way of splitting it, but it's okay. Let's say, let me erase these. So I'm going to split it with the @ symbol. So it's going to be this, and then the value is the second part. So I don't know, let's say object. Now this is important because with the first value, I could either make a switch as an example, object at position 0, right? And I could say, if it's the case of person, here, one thing we want to do is make sure that capitalization doesn't mess us up. So one thing we could do is say to lowercase, and here we could say person, right? So if it's a person, that's the object I want to create. So we could say new person. And what are the values that we could give? So now the problem is I can't change those values. We could give the name, but other than the name, I can't give any of the other values. So we have to go, we have to go and modify person a little bit to give it all these values because they're private and they don't let me. So normally these loaders, you could maybe even put it as a constructor as an example. So the object itself will build itself, if that makes sense. So rather than having a constructor with string name, we could have a constructor with a file path, load this character or load this other thing. Okay. We could even put the load here. As an example, let me just do it. Public person string load info, let's say. And again, we already have one with a string, so we can't have a constructor with the same signature. So here we're gonna say, I don't know, something stupid. Boolean load from file. Normally you wouldn't do this. You would just check this file if it contains any keyword characters, whatever, and you would do that. Just not to waste too much time, we're gonna say load from file, which doesn't match this string. Again, if you're getting confused. So what we want to do is load from this info. We want to load it from file. So one thing I could do is pass that object second parameter. The second parameter, the divider is this, right? The delimiter. The second parameter is all of this. And we just make sure it's not going to the name. We're just going to say true here. Who cares from the load? Now, interesting enough, we're at this location and load info is this big thing here. The person part is not because it was divided with the split. So here, we're going to, again, create a string array, and we're going to say values, and that's going to be our load info dot, I don't know, split was it? And we're going to split it by, in this case, colon. Now that we split it with colon, we get Reza 2.5, 200, etc., etc., etc. So let's try this out. So here we're going to say name equals values at position 0. Pretty good. Then we're going to get the second thing is height and then weight. Where were we? Height equals, now this case we're a string and we're converting it into a float. So we're going to use our class float dot, our helper class float. We're going to parse something, make sure it's valid values. So values at position 1. Then we got weight, float, parse, values at position 2. Then we're at the hair, right? The new object, new hair, color, whatever. So this is going to be hair equals, we're going to just create a new object where the first part is to say the color. So we're going to say color. Now this is a enum, so we need to do color dot value of, which we give it a string. Actually, before that, sorry, string array hair values, let's say. And what we're going to do is to say values, that array, position 3. Remember, position 3 is all of this. Now we need to split it by the $. Split $. Seem to have, it could be that the $sign is used by regex to do something else. So we're just going to go ahead and escape it so that it doesn't do what it should normally do, which, if I remember correctly, is to say it's the end of the line. We could have used a different character. Maybe we'll go ahead and change it to a different character, not utilize. Let's say exclamation mark, just to make our life a bit easier and not to go off topic too much. Because we're doing that, we need to go here and change this to exclamation marks. Okay. So now we got those exclamation marks. We're splitting them. We're going to get black 1 and 1. So the first part is hair values at position 0. The second part is a float. So again, we're going to do float, parse float, hair values at position 1. And we could just copy this one again for the length. And just remember to change the position. And now we got all 3 values for our hair. And we're missing 2 other things, which is the skin color, eye color. Again, if you do it in the incorrect order, we're going to have a problem. So here equals, sorry, that was the wrong one. And we want color dot value of, and we're back to our normal array, not this hair value anymore. We're at this location, so we're going to say values at position 4 and hair, no, skin color, eye color. There we go. Color dot value of values at position 5. So again, we're creating this inside person constructor because it has access to all those attributes. While outside of this, I wouldn't have access. Normally here, you would probably throw an exception saying something's wrong with the input data, right? So if I got incorrect information, give it to the caller so the caller could deal with it because it's incorrect information. So forth, so on. Now, if all of this worked correctly, we should be back here. Our object got created, right? Let's say load from file. And this load from file, we're going to say here equals new person. And if this got created, this is all good. Then we could do load from file. I don't know. Let's say talks. And we say something. Meow. Now we're getting an exception type of error where it might not have been initialized, but we're going to do it here. So it's okay. Let's see if it will let me run it. No. We could initialize it with null. It's fine. Yeah. Until it's happy, I'm happy. So here we're just specifying to him that we know the consequences. Don't worry about it. I didn't want to go on debug. Don't worry about it. And notice that it's loading correctly. Says Reza, says meow. Right? That's this last part. So this load actually worked. If you guys need some time, go back in the video, pause it, go to every location that you have problems with. Let me know. On a final note, just remember, where were we? Input.txt, there we go. Notice that all of this got also read, but they didn't matter because I didn't have the correct syntax to do what I needed to do. So all of this got ignored. And if I wanted to save to a file, I would do the same thing. Just recreate this line with the values given. So somewhere inside your person class, create a save. First thing would be a person, etc., and send it to whoever wants to save. That's it, right? Create your own rules. Don't create boundaries for what you limit yourself into. Don't tell yourself, oh, well, can I do that or can I not do it? Try it. If you can't do it, go to step number 2. But if you don't get that initial momentum or you don't even try it, well, you're going to always be stuck. Everything is patience, experiments. Try, fail, try again, fail, try again, fail. It's going to keep on going until you try and it succeeds and you learn from that. But you've also learned from the path you took. Every step along the way where you failed, that was an invaluable experience where you learned something. And this is what we want. I'll see you guys in another video.